Welcome to Mormon Book Reviews, where an evangelical encounters the restoration. I'm your host, Stephen Peinecker, and this is a very special. Usually when you see Rebecca Biblioteca in the house, it typically means it's a Mormon Media Reviews special episode. How you doing, Rebecca?
I'm doing great. I'm ready. I have my Mormon Media Review book review mug. I'm ready to go.
That's good. Don't forget the merch store, mormonbookreviews.com, to get all this wonderful stuff. And actually, we're going to be doing a switcheroo here, folks, because I am actually going to be the guest on today's episode, and Rebecca is going to be the host. But before we go there, I just want to remind you that this month's October book giveaway is The Burning Book by Jason Olson, published by my friends at By Common Consent Press. And this has exploded. We're closing on 35,000 views for that interview I did with Jason just a little over a month ago. People are buying this book like crazy. They're giving back to me, and they just love this book. It's very well written because he had James Goldberg as the co-author, who's a beautiful author, writes beautifully. It's a wonderful story. It's about a Jewish individual who reads the Book of Mormon at the age of 14 and tells his rabbi that he believes that Yeshua or Jesus is the Messiah. And then when he becomes 18 years old, he becomes a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So in the description is my email, mormonbookreviews@gmail.com. Put in the description, October book drawing, and put in your name and address for the drawing. Okay, so now it's the switcheroo, where I hand off the reins. Do I dare do this, folks? Is this a wise decision? Do I hand over the reins to Rebecca Biblioteca? I don't know. What's going to happen? Are you going to hijack
thumbs up, thumbs down?
Well, Rebecca, we're such good friends, and I'm so glad to hand over the reins to you. So the reason why Rebecca is going to interview me is because I am launching another YouTube channel, and I'm really excited about it. So, Rebecca, handing it over to you now.
That's right. Here we go. And I accept. I feel like Dad just gave me the keys to the car for the first time when I'm 16, and I'm taking it out on a test run, right? So we'll see how we do. No, I'm very excited for this opportunity. Steve has had some really interesting things happen in his life recently, and he's kind of been filling me in a little bit as they progress. I mean, when is Steve not interesting? Let's be honest. There's always something, but this I think is really fascinating. And so I was really pleased and honored when he said, would you like to come on and just sort of let's have a conversation about what's been going on? Because I think that your viewers and your listeners are going to be really interested, because this is a big opportunity, not only for you, but for them, if they're not aware of what is going on and what you're involved in now. So let's start out by, why don't you just tell us the very unusual thing that happened to you regarding Facebook just a couple of weeks ago, which was completely out of the blue, as I understand it.
Yeah. It's really cool. So yeah, just it was actually Labor Day weekend. And a few months before that, there was this new group on Facebook called the Utah Interfaith Forum. And somebody reached out to me, and they wish to remain anonymous. And they reached out to me and they said, I'd like to start up this forum, and I'd like for you to be a mod. And I'm like, well, my touch on this group's going to be very light because I'm super busy. But if you want to have me on, I can kind of maybe give some guidance or whatever. I'll occasionally chime in, because you know how it is with these mods. They have these conversations about, what about this? What about that? And so I'm like, I didn't really think much of it, but I noticed that the group was really growing. It was flourishing. People were really active in the group. Great conversations were happening. And I thought, I kind of kept an eye on what was going on. It caught my interest. And what is the Utah Interfaith Forum? Well, basically it is Utah based, but of course I'm in Florida. But it's primarily Utah Interfaith. What does that mean? Well, that typically means Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the engagement with other religions, right? Or with other Christian groups. So that's a broad definition of it, but it's also interfaith in the sense that it's also intrafaith, if you will, within the restoration, so that we get all the other restoration groups talking to each other, like Community of Christ, the Church of Jesus Christ, some of the fundamentalist groups, get them in the group and them converse amongst themselves, but then also have a greater conversation where with Muslims and Jews and Sikhs. And by the way, I'm going to be going to a Sikh temple later this month. I'm going to be getting into a limo full of Sikh women with one of their the son, Jimmy is his name. We're going to take a limo up to the Tampa Sikh temple, and they don't call it a temple, but that's what we would call it. And what I love about the Sikhs is that they open the temple is open to the public, and they provide shelter and food for people in their temples. No questions asked, no strings attached. It's a beautiful, amazing. I think, a beautiful thing that all temples of all kinds should be doing, in my opinion. And so I'm an interfaith person. I didn't never realize I was interfaith. I never considered myself to be interfaith. But then I hear back from the founder of this group, Labor Day weekend. And he goes to me and said, Steve, I want to hand over the reins of this Facebook group to you. And I understand this group is got over 1,000 members. It's about to cross over 1,000 members right as he's handing it to me. I said, why are you doing this? He said, well, you need to understand something. He said, and folks, just so you know, this is a faithful member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Okay. He said, I created this group for you, Steve. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, what I did was you are modeling what interfaith dialogue should look like. And so I've taken all the principles that you have been doing that you've applied to your channel, and I've applied them to this group. And so this channel, this group, Utah Interfaith Forum, which I'll have a link in the description for you to join on Facebook. Also, in a little bit, we'll do a screen share and I'll take you to the YouTube channel called Utah Interfaith Forum. Okay, so that's
right, because that's the big announcement for Steve.
Yes, this is a channel,
not just a Facebook page, which
right.
Is amazing and growing and so many members. But now we're going to take it a little further, and it's going to turn into a YouTube channel, which is going to have wide audience, huge reach, which is really exciting.
It is. It really is. And it's cool too, because when I took over the group, I brought on a few more mods into the group to add different voices. So we have like Dr. Kyle Bashirs. He's one of the mods. He's an evangelical pastor. Nathan Smith, former Mormon missionary turned Buddhist. I think he still considers himself a Buddhist of some type.
I think he does too. I love Nathan. We've interviewed him several times.
Yeah, he's one of the mods. Jared, the Hustle. Oh, I forget. Jared. He's a student at BYU. I wanted a younger voice in there too, and he's so I'm including people in the forum. But I went to the group a few weeks ago and said, hey, I have this idea to do a YouTube channel. Now, what I'm going to do is actually I need to pull it up. The YouTube channel.
Yeah, let's take a look at this. And it seems like the possibilities would be endless as far as a YouTube channel with an interfaith theme.
Yes.
Like so many different things that you could cover.
Yes, I agree. And so let me just bear with me. I should have had this pulled up. You know how it is.
Tech is always the bane of all of our existence, those of us that podcast, right? Although I will say while you're pulling it up, Steve, that your backdrop today, which is a real bookcase, looks incredible. It looks amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So here I found. Okay, so this is. Let me just enable share screen for the kids here. So for the kiddos, you can all see what this is all about. So here we go. Where are you at there, Utah Interfaith Forum? Where are you at? Oh, there we go. Oh, that's strange. Okay, let's see. There it is.
Oh, I'm seeing something. There it is. Okay, there we go. Utah Interfaith Forum.
The
UIF. Because you can't start something new without an acronym. We're all about that. So the UIF, here we go.
Yeah. So I have two videos on there that I posted when I first set it up, which is what is really going on at the Utah Interfaith Forum, which I posted on MBR. And then I taped a special episode that I didn't release publicly, but just released it to the members of I posted this on my community page on MBR. Okay, that's where I posted it, as well as in the Utah Interfaith group. Now, it has more than one view because I posted it on my main YouTube channel, but I just took these two videos that were on MBR and just transferred them over here just to get started. What I'm going to be doing here. And so like here, it's, do I even have, oh yeah, this forum is intended to be a safe space for people from all faith traditions to share their religious experience and understanding with one another. It's not so much a place for polemics or proselytizing as it is a gathering place where we help one another to better understand our respective faith journeys. Thus, we ask participants to be civil and respectful in their interactions. Thank you. I just copy and pasted that from like the description from the Utah Interfaith Forum. But this will be a dual launch on the channel. So go to YouTube, subscribe to Utah Interfaith Forum, which of course I will have links for in the description, and let's get us going, because I really feel like okay, I did not start this channel to do what it's become. I started this channel to review books. And then next thing you know, I get on the radar screens. I mean, I tell people, I said I had 20-something subscribers, and I'm on the radar screen of John DeLynn and Sandra Tanner almost immediately. I'm like, how do they even know who I am? And then next, I have 100 subscribers and I have Richard Bushman come on my program. So very early on, I realized I've got something special here. And also God told me early on, he said, don't make any plans. So I don't make any plans. So I just say, so if somebody says, Steve, I created this group, it's called Utah Interfaith Forum. It's based on the principles that you're modeling on your show. And I created it for you and I'm handing it off to you. I'm like, okay, that God wants me to do Utah Interfaith Forum. And of course, what do? I don't write. I don't do these long form epistles. I talk. So I thought, well, obviously, to me, it makes sense that there should be a Utah Interfaith Forum YouTube channel. So
exactly.
I'm really excited.
Supported by the Facebook page. So tell me, what kind of content can we expect to see there? Will you be the sole content producer? Will many different people create content? Will it be an interview format? I mean, I can see all kinds of possibilities and maybe a hybrid. How do you envision it?
No, yeah, thanks for asking that. So I envision my role on this channel with that maybe once a month I would post an interview with somebody, like an interfaith conversation for me. Okay. But I also want to open it up to have different hosts, like a rotation of hosts. Like I'd like to have maybe a Jewish host interview a Christian or a Mormon or a member of Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or maybe Muslims. Atheists, I tell people, I said, even atheists are welcome to, atheists that have an ethos, like an ethical system of belief that's non-theistic, but it's an ethical worldview that they think they can bring to the table. We also welcome people who maybe, when I say interfaith, that also includes people who don't have they have a non-theistic worldview as well. Okay. So I want to have atheists on. I want to have all sorts of different people, and I want them talking to each other. And I think one of the first people I'll probably have would be Leah Merritt, who's a student at Brigham Young University, who's in charge of the interfaith group, one of the people in charge of the interfaith group at BYU. She's an evangelical Christian, and she has her own channel called okay, hold on. It's the non-members project, the non-members project at BYU. So what she does is she interviews non-members, people who are not members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but attend Brigham Young University. So I'll probably have her on as one of my guests. I think she'd be an ideal person to have on. I've heard her on a couple of times, and people are aware of her, especially in the Interfaith Forum group and also viewers of the channel. And so I thought, okay, I just want to kick this off and see where it goes. Maybe this doesn't work. I don't know. I mean, I'm optimistic that I think there's a real need for this kind of place, safe space to have these conversations. And really, it's MBR, it's MMR, but it's broader because it encompasses all worldviews, ethical beliefs, theistic worldviews, to come to the table to have conversations. And then the reason why I think this is so important, and people even tell me, said, why aren't there more people doing what you're doing, Steve? We live in this world that is just literally it's a mess. Nobody's talking to each other. We're all siloed. We were talking about that yesterday, how everybody just lives in their silos. And we have that in the political world. You literally, some people just get their only news from Fox News, and some people get their only news from MSNBC, and nobody is talking to each other. And it's like, and we see the same thing in the religious landscape. And so even atheists should support what I'm doing. And why do I say that? Because most atheists will go and say, the cause of most of the wars in human history has been over religion. Well, granted, you're right about that. A lot of it have been. So why wouldn't you be supportive of having interfaith dialogue that can turn down the heat and create safe spaces? I'm referred to as the Switzerland of Mormonism. I want the Utah Interfaith Forum to become the Switzerland of interfaith dialogue, of religion. And so that's what I want it to become. I really feel like God has put me in this place. My mom even says, God put you in this place for this time and place. It's so funny. When I was a young man, I was still a teenager, and I gave a presentation. At the time, I was heavily involved in politics, and I went to a house group for a church and gave a presentation about why Christians should get involved in politics. Of course, this was in the 90s when Christians were just getting involved in politics, like big time, like would later take over the Republican Party, the evangelicals. And I did a presentation, and this is in the 90s, so most people didn't have cell phones yet, but there was this gentleman who was the vice president of a local bank, pretty prominent businessman, a Dutchman, who was a charismatic convert from the Christian Reformed Church. And he not say a convert because we're all Christians, but he went from being a Dutch Reformed Calvinist to a charismatic Calvinist, if you will. And not that that really matters, but it's actually interfaith, so it's kind of interreligious. And he left, and then he called from his cell phone. Of course, back then people didn't have cell phones, and not most.
Yeah, that's kind of rare.
He called from his cell phone. He called the house that I was at, and he calls, and the owner of the house, he goes, "Hey, you got a call from so and so." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he had just left the meeting. He said, "Steve, I want to share a word of the Lord for you." He said, "The Lord gave me this word for you." I'm like, "Okay." He said, "The Lord showed me that you're going to be a Daniel, and that you are going to be talking to and rubbing shoulders with some of the most powerful people in the world, and that you will have influence over them." Now, at the time, it was believed that that calling was my political calling. And in some sense, I did. I mean, I met the president of the United States and senators, and kind of knew first name with congressmen and senators, as a kid, as a young kid.
You were a mover and shaker,
yeah.
Right? A mover and shaker.
So my mom, and so I forgot about this, because then I got into politics. I was a political consultant. I got burned out, and I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I walked away from politics. That's when I got my job at Borders Bookstore. When I walked away from politics, my job was to go to work at Borders, which is a whole nother story, which we won't talk about today. But I forgot about this prophecy. But then shortly after I started the channel, literally maybe a month after I started the channel, and all these crazy things start happening. And my mom went to me and she said, "Steve," she said, "the prophecy is being fulfilled." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "That prophecy we thought was for politics, but she said, that prophecy is for what you're doing here with your channel." And I like I said, I forgot about the prophecy. And so it's not like I was trying to like make it happen, right?
Right. A self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
No, that wasn't happening. You were just living your life.
Like, yeah, I think you're right. And this is the thing, Rebecca, it's become that, where literally, I rub shoulders with some of the greats of Mormon scholarship, general authorities. Got blessed by a general authority, by Neil Anderson. And so in one sense, I do think the prophecy's been fulfilled, or is being fulfilled as we talk. So that's the spiritual aspect of this whole thing too. I don't know if I've ever told that story, so I wanted to share it with you and with the audience.
No, that's amazing. I'm glad that you shared that. No, and that's so interesting. And what I love about it is that your mom, as moms do, recognize these things, right? Because she loves you, and she's watching your life unfold, and the choices you're making, and the decisions, and the trajectory. And you had shared that with her, right? Obviously, when it first happened, or a little bit later, you shared it with her.
Because I'm a kid, and I didn't think much of it. My parents, right, when I told my parents about it, it's like, you realize who that was? I mean, this was a very prominent businessman in the community, very wealthy man, a very powerful man, who got this word from the Lord about what he saw, something about me that later we thought was prophet. The easier thing would be, he's obviously prophesying, because Daniel, he consulted kings, and he was very powerful in Babylonia, and he was an outsider, but he had all this influence on these people. It just seemed like, obviously it's my political calling, which I thought was my calling, but really it wasn't. I tried to make it my calling. This is my calling, what's happened here. But I've been running away from my calling for most of my life, right? Because I never intended it, but now I've embraced this calling, which I didn't know was a calling until I, just started following the lead of the Lord. And so this all happens. So I know for you, I remember our first conversation we ever had, it was like, I don't think there's probably a God, and I've never had a connection. And so all this must sound like just a bunch of, I don't know.
No, it doesn't at all. I've lived in all spaces and all
true.
worlds. And I think that you have blessed so many people with what you're doing. And because I don't know, probably a lot of your viewers and listeners realize, that we met just very on when both of us were kind of starting on our little journeys of getting out into the media and putting together content, and I remember your first episode where you're just sitting there at that table. You make a joke like it looked like you were being held hostage or something, and forced to read something. You've got a book, but you did it, you did it. And then people are attracted to that, and they, want to interact with you.
And that was the first book I reviewed.
And that was the first book, that's exactly right. And you gave me the greatest advice ever, which is, don't think about it, just do it. Grab a mic, sit in front of a camera and say something. It'll be hilarious at first. You'll probably want to hide that video forever, but you're going to start going, and you're going to start meeting people, and you're going to start making connections. And I see that with so many people, and especially all the people that you have helped start on their path, which is incredible. So you're just absolutely blessing the universe with that. So
Yeah,
I have a question for you. Go ahead, comment on that, and then I have another question.
Ask away. You're in charge. It's your show.
I'm in charge. It's my show. That's right. I'm going to be one of those hosts that talks over everybody. No, I'm always accused of that. I'm always accused on my podcast of talking over people. And what I realize is there's like a lag in my earphones. And so when somebody takes a pause, to me, I think they're finished because they don't start talking again for a second. So I start talking. So yeah, I'm known as a very rude podcaster. I'm always talking over anyone. Anyway, so here's my question. And this might be a little difficult, I think, because there's been a lot of talk about interfaith relationships and interactions in the last week. And this is because of a conference talk that was given at the very end of conference by President Nelson, in which he said these words that have been taken in many different ways by different people. And some people are actually very concerned, very worried, and very upset about what that means with their relationships with people of another faith. And the words that President Nelson said were, never take counsel of those who don't believe. So people that are concerned have taken this to mean people that are not of the LDS faith, we should not entertain their ideas or talk to or have an interfaith dialogue or watch an interfaith channel. And there's been a lot of discussion about this statement with post-Mormons, nuanced Mormons, I would guess, faithful Latter-day Saints. What do you think that means? Because I hope that it doesn't mean that. I hope that there's a place like you described for interfaith, but the quote says, never take counsel of those who don't believe.
Yeah, no,
so we're kind of all trying to understand that because what you're doing to me is beautiful. And so I don't know if this is counter to that, or how would you even interpret that?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Rebecca. Boy, you're really putting me on the spot. I was not expecting.
I know. I'm sorry. I actually just thought of that just now, and I'm really sorry that I did. But I honestly, not to put you on the spot, just to honestly seek your opinion, because I'm serious when I say people are worried about this. Can I no longer, have coffee with my neighbor who's a Buddhist, and I love some of the things that she says? Can I not do that anymore? People are really wondering how to interpret that, because I think there is this broader thing that's happening where people are interacting with people of all different faiths and talking and taking the good parts of other faiths and incorporating them into their lives. Does this statement mean we can't do that anymore? I think people are just very curious. So I'm asking you sincerely, not to stir a pot, but just to get your perspective, because you are Switzerland and this is what you do. You do take counsel from people of all different faiths. So
I'll relay a few things that have happened to me, my personal experiences, that I think will maybe be instructive or informs my way of looking at things. And it's a couple things. One, last May, Apostle Neil Anderson came and dedicated the Sarasota Stake Center, which is just down the road from my house. Okay. And he was given this talk. And in the talk, he goes and says, on our way here, we drove by an evangelical church. He said, I want to tell all of you that they are not our enemies. They are our friends, and we need to work with them. That's what Apostle Neil Anderson said. Okay. And that was heartfelt. And that was real. That was real. Well, it was interesting because I was actually sitting. So you had, of course, all the way back to Cultural Hall was opened up, and they had everybody sitting in the basketball courts with this, standing room only. And I was sitting at the end of the pew section, right in the main sanctuary. So I was in the pew area, but I was towards the back. And I remember making eye contact with the apostle, right? And I didn't think anything of it, and kind of just, like we had a connection there, but then I didn't think anything of it. Then we get into line to, there's this long line stretching all the way to the back to go shake his hand. Of course, the members of the local ward there, they're like, oh, yeah, we'll let you cut. You got to meet him, because I was like, that's a big long line. So I get the cut in line, and I go to the apostle, I go to Elder Anderson, and I'm like, I just want to thank you for saying such kind words about my people. And he looks right at me, right in the eyes, and he says, I saw you sitting back there. And I saw that you have the right spirit about you. And so when I say I was blessed by an apostle, I mean that. I was blessed by the words he said about my people from the pulpit. And I was blessed by the words that he said when he says he felt that I had the right spirit about me. So for me, that's a blessing from a member of the Quorum of the 12 for my ministry, if you will. Okay. And it's also, to me, that's a sign, I believe, that for both sides, both the Restoration and evangelical world, this is the moment. All right. So we're very excited about this. The second thing I would talk about is that in May, I spoke at a Book of Mormon rally it was on a Saturday night. But that Saturday morning, I had a meeting at the Independence, Missouri Stake Center, right next to the Visitors Center in Independence, Missouri, right across the street from the Community of Christ Temple. Okay. And every year they have this interfaith conversation, but it's intrafaith, if you will, because it's representatives of different branches of the Restoration. So it's overseen by the stake president, and you have the stake president there, you had the mission president there, you had, and then you had representatives from Church of Jesus Christ, Independent Restorationists, all these groups. And for the first time ever, they invited outsiders, people from outside of the Restoration, to attend this meeting as well, which included me of Mormon Book Reviews and David Boyce of 52 Churches in 52 Weeks. And we were part of this interfaith dialogue, and we were sitting at the table, and we felt completely welcomed by the group. Okay, so these are two incidences that happen at stake centers, interestingly enough, right, that demonstrate to me the importance of having interfaith dialogue. Now, the person who oversees this is Casey Griffiths of Brigham Young University, and he's been charged by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to reach out to all the different restorationist groups and bring them to the table and have conversations. So that's what Casey does. And so every year we have this Book of Mormon symposium and a Book of Mormon rally in Independence, Missouri, that's open to all the believers of the Book of Mormon. And this past one, we actually had the rally at a Community of Christ church. Okay. And so this is coordinated between Apostle Patrick McKay, who's an apostle of the Joint Conference of Independent Restoration Branches. I think that's kind of the name. And Casey Griffiths of BYU. So there were BYU professors speaking at it. There were other restorationists, including Temple Lot people from the Temple Lot spoke at it.
Okay.
So you had all the different groups there. And to me, this is actually, I actually am involved in this actual process happening. And I really feel like the church supports, I mean, not all officially, but I think the church and members of the church, I hear from employees all the time. I hear from BYU people all the time. I hear from people at the Maxwell Institute. I hear from CES instructors. I hear from all these different people that really appreciate the work that I'm doing. So I know that in practice, I'm actually part of this interfaith conversation that's happening. Now, back to President Nelson. I don't know. It's hard for me to interpret what he said. Okay. All I can say is that what I'm experiencing is that this is encouraged, and I have not sensed any less of in the last week. I haven't had anybody back away from these interfaith conversations. I don't think they take it that way, but I do think too is but of course these are the words of the prophet, right? Mm-hmm. And so that this is not insignificant, and I don't know how to interpret that other than to say that I don't believe that's what he meant, only because it's so fascinating. Because if we look at it in the totality of what he gave, the talk he gave at General Conference last May,
yes,
which is about we shouldn't be doing these we shouldn't be engaging in this this kind of behavior, this conflicting, he said
right.
being
it was a peacemaker talk. Yes. We even interviewed together about that, remember? And that talk was amazing. So I think that's why people were very confused this year, or just wondering. There was a different tone to that, And I think those of us that are, post-Mormons, we sort of look at that and we go, oh, I wonder how our faithful family members take that, will my faithful family members now not give me any credence or credibility as I discuss or have dialogues with them? My own children, will they feel that way? I think, that's just kind of a knee-jerk, what people are concerned about.
Like he was addressing, in particular, people who were members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Absolutely.
That's how you feel it was addressed to in particular.
Because it says, do not take counsel from those that do not believe. And I know there is one letter circulating. It was from a faithful Latter-day Saint woman who was married to a man who was not a Latter-day Saint. And she wrote a letter that's been circulating to her bishop and said, I'm very concerned about this. My husband is the most wonderful, amazing, incredible, wise person. And to be told by my prophet, I should not now, this is how she took it, maybe in an extreme way, I should not now listen to my husband. I don't accept that. So I think a lot of us just wondering about it, on a personal level, with interpersonal relationships. But then my question for you, of course, is, how does you see this on the broader stage?
Well,
because I agree with you. This is happening everywhere. There are dialogues, there are conversations, there are people talking of all faiths all together. And it's wonderful. I would hate to see something that was perhaps misunderstood.
Because it could be,
or even curb it.
Right. Yeah. It could be, because it could be broadly interpreted. Don't listen to the counsel of those who don't believe, meaning like don't believe the claims of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, don't believe in the Book of Mormon, don't believe that Joseph Smith.
Maybe actively fighting against or something like that, and not just someone of another faith. I hope that's how it's meant. And I hope that people don't take it in a way that would discredit or not listen to others of other faiths. Because I, like you, see this channel as, just something that fits in in a line with everything that's happening now, with just so much excitement and dialogue and learning from each other and all of that. So I hope that continues and isn't, kind of put to an end by that statement. So that's why I thought I'd ask you, just if you knew about that statement or how you took it, because a lot of people are curious.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking me about that. And see, that's what interfaith dialogue is supposed to look like. I tell people, I said, this is not kumbaya where we all like, oh, it's just all, it's all, it's more like, no, like I believe, you believe, we're believers, but we believe differently. And we need to be firm in we have our convictions, have our faith, and we're not trying to water down our faith. We just say, hey, I want to bring this to the table. This is what Jesus has done for me. This is what my faith journey has done for me. And then I want to hear from the Muslim and say, well, this is what praying 5 times a day does for me. All right. Or I want to hear a Jew just talk about, hey, this is what it's like to, maybe live in America all my life, and now I've moved to Israel, my homeland, right? I want to hear their story, what they bring to the table. I want a Sikh to tell me that I'm going to that Sikh temple. I want to hear what does your faith do for you? How does it help you? And then let's look for the commonalities that we have that we can share. But then let's also talk about our differences too. Okay, but do it in a civil way, right? That to me is the most important thing, that we can have civil conversations. I think there's this, that all believers all have a commonality, is that we believe in something bigger than ourselves, and we believe in something higher than ourselves, and we want to bring that to the table. Now, of course, I also want the atheist with who's has an ethos, right? Atheist with an ethos.
Exactly.
I want them to bring
not theistic. Saying,
yep. I want them to bring their what they have to say to the table as well. So that's really important. And I think that even like when President Nelson says those kind of things, that should cause us to have. As a matter of fact, I should check the Interfaith Forum. I haven't to see if maybe there've already been a discussion going on about that.
I would be curious. Maybe you need to do a little separate short on this topic, because I'm telling you, everyone is trying to understand what this means and how it impacts them in their relationships with others of different faiths and their relationships within their family. If there's a difference of, perhaps members are faithful, members have stepped away, there's a lot there, I think.
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. And and that's the thing too, is like we don't want to run away from having the tough conversations too.
Exactly.
Well, I think what I'm going to do is I appreciate you bringing this up. I wasn't expecting you to bring it up, but I'm glad that you did.
I wasn't either. I thought of it just during our interview. I was not even thinking about doing that. So I know we kind of took us off course, but it's very relevant.
I'm going to reach out to my connections in the that I have at BYU and other places, church office, and people who work in the church office building. I'm going to reach out to them and say, hey, you guys still want me to do this interfaith stuff, right? You guys want me to continue talking to the restoration, right? I mean, because you guys are going to still listen, right? I hope, to what I bring to the table. And I suspect the answer is going to be yes, of course, Steve. I really do believe that. I don't think that should, the way I hear it, I'm like, I can see why people would take it that way. But I'm hopeful. We'll know. We'll know soon enough. If BYU professors don't come on my program anymore, then we know, right? That might be a sign. But I think as long as we see the people from the church historian's office come, and people from BYU come on the program, then we know that the church is still continuing to unofficially support the work that I'm trying to do, and I hope that would include also my work with the Utah Interfaith Forum.
I'm assuming it would, because like you said, everybody's very siloed. That's my new favorite word, because it really does describe how people are. And, you know, we're trying to branch out. We're trying to talk to different people, and we're almost forced to in our daily interactions. You know, everyone has a different point of view. Even if you say I'm a faithful Latter-day Saint, if you sit in a room, you're going to find 20 things that you don't see eye to eye in your own religion on, because everybody lives their own version of Mormonism in lots of ways. So it's within the church, it's outside of the church. It's important to dialogue together, I think.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And, you know, I think we also can see that this is what I tell people. I said, I'm just doing what the Apostle Paul did. You know, he goes up to the pagan temple and he has conversations with the people of all who believe differently than he does. He does it in a respectful way. He says, this is what he brought to the table, what Jesus had done for him. And this was a person who was a Jew, who persecuted Christians, now engaging the Greek culture and their pantheon and their belief systems. And so to me, it's like, this is Paul. This is what Paul, I'm just modeling myself after Paul, you know? And so, you know, that's why I'm good friends with Dr. Nehemiah Gordon, who is one of the top Jewish scholars in the world. I spent an hour and a half just Zooming with him yesterday, just because I get all these, now everybody wants to book him on their program. So I said, okay, this is the lay of the land, dude. You're going to, trust me, your world is going to really, because he's got followers in the Christian community and the Jewish community. And because of his interview with Dan Vogel, now he's, and also him coming on my program, now he's got a Latter-day Saint audience that's very interested in the work that he does. So that's just interfaith in action as we speak. And what's so cool is I talked to ultra-Orthodox Jewish people in Brooklyn who have said, if you ever find your way in Brooklyn, you have a place to stay. So this is weird, where even though this is Mormon book reviews and it's about Mormonism, almost from the beginning, I was hearing from people throughout the world, from Muslims and Jews and other Christians and atheists, who really appreciate, you know, what the work has become. So to me, I get it now. I would never in a million years would have ever even thought of calling myself interfaith, or what I do is interfaith, until somebody kind of created that group and said, hey, we got this, I want to hand this Facebook group over to you. And I've been really, it's a privilege, and I want to honor the founder who, you know, and keep the right spirit about the channel. And it's a great privilege to be able to have, you know, there's a lot of groups that, Facebook's groups out there, and not a whole lot of them get to 1,000 members in just a few months. Many of them never get 1,000 members. And so it is a real privilege and a gift that was handed to me. And I feel like I almost feel like this isn't my group. It's not my group, right? I am just to be somebody who's just kind of to oversee it for a season, to kind of get it going. And maybe I'll hand it off to somebody else. You see, it was a gift, but maybe I'm just to have it for a season. Or maybe a Utah Interfaith Forum becomes the thing that I start doing, and maybe MBR goes a different direction, right? Maybe, you never know.
I can never see that. But it tells me, the fact that it grew so quickly, that this is an interest of people. And you said that you feel that the members of the group are predominantly Latter-day Saints. That means they do want to reach out. They do want to interact. They do want to learn from others. So, and I like what you just said. You said interfaith in action. I love that, because it's not just, oh, we're listening, or we're on a Facebook page, or we're watching a video. We're actively talking to people and interacting and making our whole communities better just because of that. We have to. It's really important to understand each other.
I think that is, you know, it's so funny. I had so basically every 6 weeks, you know, you get the new Mormon missionaries in the Lakewood Ranch Ward, right? Yeah. And basically one of the first things they do now is they come to my house and have pizza. Okay. So I got the new
love
group.
Those pictures.
Oh, they're awesome. And especially I love the one where they're holding the crosses. So Wednesday night, this past Wednesday night, I had the Mormon missionaries come to my house. We had some pizza. They got to meet my producer, Anthony. He had pizza with them as well. And Anthony's just a little bit older than them. So they all kind of hit it off really well. And then I was like, guys, you want to see the campus of the Christian community I live at? And they're like, oh, sure. Now they were tight. You know how Mormons are, like, well, we got to get going because we got to deliver some
schedule. Yeah.
You know, they're always tight schedule. So everything's like rush when I ever have the missionaries here. I said, let's go down to the campus. So I took them down to the hotel, which is right on the Manatee River. And I showed them the spot where I was baptized by Pastor Phil. And then in the Manatee River. And then I said, hey, and you could hear the drums and the bass guitar beat from the church service that was happening on Wednesday night, which they're doing Feast of Tabernacles this week here at the Christian community I live at. And I'm like, guys, you want to go and check out the church service? They're doing a Feast of Tabernacles celebration. Like, yeah, let's do it. So again, this is interfaith in action, right? So we pull into the parking lot. I said, let's go. So we go into the International Training Center and the lobby, and then we walk through the International Training Center, and then we go into the Tabernacle, which is what the church building is called, the Tabernacle. And they just started blowing the shofar, and they just started the procession where everybody marches out and they're holding palms and they're marching out of the church building, and they're walking under the Sukkot and then walking back in, and they're singing the songs. These are the days of Elijah, which is a classic, huge, and actually the night before they actually had the composer of that song giving a concert the night before. Oh my goodness, I can't remember his name off. Is it Paul Wilbur? I think it's Paul Wilbur. Well, either way, these are the days of Elijah, which I think every Latter-day Saint needs to sing that song, because I think Latter-day Saints would love it. But so maybe
it'll be in the new hymn book.
Yeah, it would be great. I wouldn't be surprised. It's a ladder, and it talks about Zion and everything. Okay.
Yeah.
So here they are, and now I got one of the missionaries. He starts clapping along, and I'm singing. I explained to him, hey, you're going to like the song. And I remember one of them goes like, and they describes something in the song. He said, hey, that's us. That's what we're doing. All right. So now all of a sudden I see Pastor Phil. They're marching around. There's Pastor Phil, and he's marching with the people. And I say, Pastor Phil. So Pastor Phil comes up to him and says, well, hi, he knew they were missionaries because he had their badges. And he just said, boy, you got your preaching clothes on, don't you? and he said, you guys have a zeal for evangelism, don't you? And he was very kind to them. And they were very kind to him. And one of the coolest things is, as we were walking in the lobby, they had this sign, free crosses. Now, I think in the past, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, most Mormon missionaries probably would kind of shy away from those crosses. They
would turn and run.
They would turn around. They lunge and grab those crosses.
Yeah.
And they were excited. I even have a picture of them holding the crosses. Okay. So here they are holding their crosses. They're really digging the worship service that they're participating in. It's quite different than what, of course, there's drums and guitars and shofars blowing and all this kind of stuff. People waving banners and dancing and stuff, right? And so this morning there was Prophet Ben Smith spoke this morning for the morning session of the Feast of Tabernacles. So I attended that this morning, and I was taking some more pictures to post on Facebook because this is the last day of the Feast of Tabernacles. And I see Pastor Phil. And I just walk up to him and I say, hey, I'm sending pictures of this Feast of Tabernacles to my friend Nehemiah Gordon in Israel right now. I said, and Pastor Phil goes to me and says, Steve, he said, I really love what you're doing. He says, you get it. It's almost like he's finally, I think, got what I'm doing, because I've been sending him stuff. I've been giving him updates. And then I just told him, he appreciated so much that I brought the Mormon missionaries over. He even said, he says, Steve, Pastor Phil is really into evangelism, like going out to the streets. Like, so every Christmas, the church, they go take this big group of people every Christmas Eve, and they go to the bars, and they sing Christmas carols at the bars.
Oh, that's really nice.
So, and they do street ministry. He's always been about witnessing and evangelization. And I think he has a respect for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and their missionary efforts. And I think he sees, like, hey, they have a zeal. And I almost feel like he wishes that our side had the same type of zeal to do. So this is what's so fascinating. So Pastor Phil was like, he was really cool to me today, and I felt like, okay, like, I think he's getting it now. I think he understands what this is all about. And I think that's a wonderful thing. And just the last thing I want to bring out is this weekend is the Book of Mormon Studies Association conference. Now, this will probably air after that, but this weekend in Logan, Utah, Patrick Mason hosts at Utah State University the annual Book of Mormon Studies conference, right? And the president of that is, who guessed it? You guessed it, Dr. Christopher Thomas, who wrote A Pentecostal Reads the Book of Mormon. And my good friend, Dr. Kyle Bashirs, who's an assistant pastor at a megachurch in Mobile, Alabama, is going to be giving a presentation. And Dr. Kyle Bashirs, I call him the Stephen Pinecker of the Stringites, or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, capital D, no hyphen.
No hyphen.
He's giving a paper on the reception history of the Book of Mormon within the Stringite community. I believe that's the presentation he's given. So these are another example of interfaith. Well, it doesn't get any more interfaith than they have one of the top Pentecostal theologians in the world as the president of the Book of Mormon Studies Association. And he also does work with the Maxwell Institute. So to me, I'm just encouraged and I'm excited about the prospects of the continuing dialogue between our camps, because I think it's really, really important that we, to me, in one sense, Mormonism began, actually, you know when Mormonism began, possibly? Mormonism, I've been having conversations with Christians about this. Mormonism began when Joseph and his family were attending Alvin's funeral. And the Presbyterian pastor said that Alvin is burning in hell because he didn't get baptized. And I think that's when Mormonism started.
There's got to be a different way.
There has to be, right? So I really feel like that's when it began, was I got to figure out a way. This can't be true. And I can't worship a God that would have my brother burning in hell for eternity. And so I think this was a real sincere thing that a young man would have about the love of his brother that was supposed to be with him to retrieve the plates. And now he's burning in hell. See, I think that's when Mormonism began, right then and there. And that was the trajectory. So I feel like we're responsible that we birthed evangelical second great awakening culture, birthed the restoration. And actually, I think that's kind of cool myself, because I love the restoration and I love everything about it, because there's so much, I think that we have so much in common with each other. And I really feel like we're part of the same family, but we've had this divorce. We've for 200 years. And I feel like now I also think Mormonism started on, with the announcement of the coming forth of the plates, right? And so this is the 200th anniversary. We just passed it just a few weeks ago. And I had Book of Mormon week, celebrated Moroni Day at Mormon Book Reviews. And that's also the Book of Mormon. The coming forth of the Book of Mormon is the most audacious thing that's probably ever happened on American soil. And I want to honor that history as well. So now we're at 200 years. Over the next 7 years will be 200-year anniversaries, actually for the next 20-something years, of something significant within the restoration, all leading up to April 6th, 2030, with the formation of the Church of Christ. And I feel like over the course of the next 7 years, that the conversation between the evangelical world in particular and the restoration is going to continue to bear fruit. We're going to get closer to each other. We're going to still acknowledge our differences, but I also think it's more important that we also embrace many of the things that we do hold in common with each other. And I think that the interfaith dialogue is the place where we can have those conversations and we can really bring a restoration to our camps. And let's heal the divide. Let's bridge the divide, and let's just be friends.
I think the only thing to say to that is amen, Steve. That is an absolutely perfect part to end on. That you said it so well. I absolutely agree with you. Absolutely.
Well, I want to thank you. You're a pretty nice host to me. I wasn't sure what to expect, so I think you did a pretty good job. I think I might let you take the car out again.
Really? I passed the first test. Well, we'll wait until we get the comments from your viewers. Those are always very telling. So, but I had a lot of fun because Steve and I are very good friends, and I was really honored that he asked me to come on and help him talk about his new channel. And I hope everybody will watch, because I think this is going to be really important.
All right, hand over the reins.
The reins are back. There you go.
Got them. All right, so folks, I want to tell you, this is the other thing we're going to do. One of these days, Rebecca and I are going to sit in front of the camera. So much has happened in Rebecca's life. And you have told me, so, the only times we ever talk to each other is when we're on Zoom, or those moments that we have, a few moments that we have in Utah when I come there and visit. Now, the game plan is hopefully Rebecca and Landon and Tom might make their way later this year. And by the way, fall, it's going to be 62 degrees Sunday morning. So fall is starting to arrive here in Florida. Okay. So we're gonna have some beautiful weather coming up. So sometime later this year, we might be coming, you guys might be coming out. We got a special field trip planned to a very cool place, and I'm excited about it. Talk about interfaith dialogue. And also I'm going to have Rebecca on my program. Maybe we could even tape the interview face to face even,
Oh, that would be interesting. Those in-person ones are fun. Yeah, I'd love that.
Interview. That's what we'll do. See, we're just programming on the fly here at MDR, which is what I love to do. And so I just want to hear from you. First of all, we're looking links in the description to the Facebook group, Utah Interfaith Forum, to the YouTube channel, Utah Interfaith Forum. Let's try to get this thing to 1,000 subscribers as soon as we can. Like, so every member of the Utah Interfaith Forum, join. Okay, I'm gonna tag everyone in the forum. When I don't normally do that, I've only done that once before. I don't like to do that too frequently, but I'm gonna tag everyone to encourage everybody to become a subscriber to UIF, if you will. And let's go back to share screen real quick, just so I can see here. Oh, hold on, I got it. There we go. And there we go. Share. So go check out
there it is.
Utah Interfaith Forum. We got 5 subscribers as of now. Hey, you need to subscribe, Rebecca. So make sure you subscribe.
I need to subscribe too. Well, and I think the burning question everybody has is, will there be merch for the UIF? There needs to be hats, mats, mugs. You got to do it.
No, you never know. You never know what's going to happen. And speaking of merch, don't forget MormonBookReviews.com, where we have all these wonderful things, including hot chocolate mugs, or in your case, a tea mug. Or for those of you who are independence-based Latter-day Saints, that would be coffee mugs as well, since most of them, some do practice the word of wisdom, by the way, out there. I didn't know if you knew that, but most don't. And also just want to remind you, I want to hear what you have to say. What do you think about interfaith dialogue? What have you had experience doing interfaith dialogue? And maybe you could talk about maybe some of the experiences that you've had. Have you been to a Sikh temple and given out food? I'd like to hear about that experience. Or have you done things like that where you've worked with people of other faith traditions, and were they productive? And did you learn something? Maybe learn something about their faith, but also even learn something about your own faith as you are having these conversations, which I think is really, really important in the times that we live in now. Also, there will be links in the description for those who would like to financially support the channel, both on PayPal, Venmo, as well as Patreon. And I just got my Patreon check in the bank yesterday, and I really am grateful to all my Patreons for all that you do. It really does help. I want to thank those of you who also support me on PayPal as well as Venmo. And just remember, the most important thing, really, this is the most important thing. Remember, all the voices of the restoration will be heard here on Mormon Book Reviews.